Yeah, absolutely. So our guest today is Professor of Communication and Media Studies at St. Peter's University in New Jersey. Um, and gosh, he's got he's got so many things. This is going to go all sorts of different ways, I'm sure, Sean. He teaches a course on the history of intersection between conspiracy theories and popular culture, especially as we'll be discussing the connection between Hollywood and UFO beliefs. He is the author of the book called Conspiracy Films, a tour of dark places in American conscious, shaped by the film and the extent which Hollywood is impacted by culture. With the recent emergence of stories of military intelligence operations that have created fake UFO sightings, stories to deflect questions about development of advanced weapons technologies, the dialogue over disclosure and UFOs is becoming much more nuanced. So we'll be discussing all of that today on the show. So that was kind of a long summary, just to introduce our guest today. He is Dr. Barna Donovan. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is very exciting, just reading the introduction there, and there's just this topic is something that I think these days probably most people can sit and talk about for hours and hours.
Oh, yeah. Especially now. I mean, this is perfect timing. I mean, I bet your book sales have gone on, through the roof, right?
I'm waiting for the publisher for the conspiracy films to be because it's also used as a textbook in various similar classes on conspiracies and misinformation. So hey, I'm not complaining.
Yeah,
very nice.
And Sean said you've been to see the film Disclosure Day this week as well, right?
Yes, indeed. Actually, I saw it a week ago.
Oh, okay.
Friday. I was right there at the 12 o'clock showing, the very first one, and yeah, had a very good time. I had some mixed feelings about some of it, but overall, Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, classic.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll get into that and get your thoughts on that, along with all the other stuff that Jonathan read about. So before we do, though, and before we get into our beverages, like, what's one reason people might want to stick around and hear what you have to say?
Well, to hear a completely different theory about what's really going on with aliens and the government and what anyone has ever said before.
Okay, that's a big promise. I like it. Sounds good.
Try my best. It's gonna be big.
All right. Well, Barna, you I know you have a beverage because we talked a little bit before the show while we were waiting around on Jonathan to show up. So, and Jonathan, I know you got a beer. I actually don't have a beer today. I'm fighting a cold.
Oh, yeah, I can tell.
I'm abstaining for the afternoon, drinking electrolytes instead. Yeah.
Yeah. Good for you.
What do you have there?
Responsible thing to do, Sean.
That's right.
So this is a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. So it's handcrafted pale ale.
Yep.
Now it purports to be the beer that sparked the American craft beer revolution, 1980.
Yeah.
There you go. One of the originals, right?
I thought that this sounds like a really good bottle of beer. Will we drink during the show?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. We're allowed to drink. The conversation gets better depending on the
strength of the beer,
the ABV. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Send it down a hatch, and then we're going to be seeing UFOs for real.
Exactly. Yeah. Jonathan, what do you have?
So I got to share this on the screen. It is an IPA. It's actually a triple IPA.
Oh, that's a great name for the show.
Oh, I know. Considering, that's why I picked it out. Considering the topic of the show today, I looked at the name on this one, Hypnotized Minds. I was like, got to go there, man. Even though it is a triple IPA, 9.1%, and Barna, we don't normally partake of IPAs on this show. We don't like them very much, but I couldn't resist the name today. So
Yeah, no, that's a perfect name for the show.
It's perfect. Absolutely.
Well, I'm having Relight electrolytes. It's our go-to brand of electrolytes. So
That's it.
lemon lime, in case you're wondering.
lemon lime.
So, all right. Well, let's cheers it up to UFOs,
Absolutely.
Psyops,
UFOs,
stuff.
aliens.
All right, so Barna, what we usually do is we give a score of 1 to 5 pints, 5 being the best for your beverage. What do you give that?
I would give this about maybe a 7-ish. It's nice and smooth, but the flavor is a little more bitter than what I thought this would be.
Yeah, it's the old IPA coming through, a little bitter.
I'm noticing a little bit of a bitter aftertaste as well.
Yeah, a little pine tree in there.
Yep.
A little bit of a pine tree taste, or
I'm right there with you, Barna. It's I'm getting the pine sol aftertaste as well in mine. So, despite that, I'm going to give it it's a clever name, good can art. I'm going to go with 3-2 on this one.
Very cool. Mine's a solid 3. I drink it every day, so nothing new. Nothing keeps me hydrated in this ridiculous heat we have in Austin right now. So it's summertime in Austin. You got to stay hydrated.
Yep. Or at least it's a dry heat, though.
Not this week. It's not.
Yeah, in Austin, I don't know. You get a little humidity.
It's a little both. Yeah, it bounces back and forth. Houston tries to sneak up here every once in a while and brings their humidity with it. So, yeah.
All that.
Well, I'm excited about this, Barna. Give us a little background of. I mean, we read your bio, but you and I were talking before the show. Like, I didn't know this world existed as a possibility to be a professor teaching things like mass media theory and conspiracy theory film. I probably would have stayed in college longer if I'd have known that was a possibility. So,
Me both.
how did you end up here?
Well, I'm coming from a background in studying film, studying screenwriting, and then also developed this interest in understanding audiences, how people behave, how to do research on them, because then it can make you an effective writer. So after my master's program, I thought, okay, well, we have to go and make a living. And so did my Ph.D. to be able to do the research and then do the research publications. And that's kind of how where I'm ending up with these big questions that really are at the core of media studies questions. Like, what is the relationship between someone who's creating messages and the audience that listens to them? And I mean, that's right there, the very core of communication theories. And where's the power coming from? Is it the audience that has the more power, or is it the media? And can they go on manipulate and brainwash people, or where's the middle ground, like the interplay between all this? So this is how I wound up with communication studies, and specifically with conspiracy films. This was, I want to say, in 2006. I hope I'm not remembering this incorrectly, but I was watching this miniseries on the Sci-Fi Channel at the time on the Bermuda Triangle, and it was a part miniseries. It was pretty good, and then I was really looking forward to some kind of a really creative solution for what's in the Bermuda Triangle. But no, the solution was that it was a government experiment with a secret weapon and a conspiracy to cover it up. So I thought, this is interesting here, that this theme just keeps turning up in so much entertainment on TV and movies and books, all kinds of genres, horror, mystery, sci-fi, and then I thought, okay, let's go and take a deeper dive into what is it about our culture that has us so fascinated by these stories of a large scale corruption.
Yeah,
That's definitely what everybody loves to believe. That have you come across in your research, like, why do we love knowing or believing that there's this massive, all-encompassing, conspiracy out there controlling everything?
Sure, sure. Well, it's a really complex question. There's a various reasons for it. I mean, one of the big ones is when people, and this is a recurring finding and studies on this, that people who are very strong believers in conspiracy theories or they're susceptible to it, that they might feel powerless in their real life. They might feel like they don't have a voice, that they can't make their presence felt, and then for their lot in life that they're not very happy with, then they start thinking about, well, what kind of larger scale forces are at work that's really keeping me down and keeping me from living as happy as much of a healthy, prosperous life that I should be living. And so that would be one of them. Also, you have just the world becoming so much more complex, that when we're hearing stories about our everyday technology in our pockets is keeping track of us all over the place,
Yeah.
that somebody out there has the power to like literally track you from the moment you get out of bed in the morning until you go to bed at night, that there's some kind of an electronic footprint. So in a world like that, we start to think, wait a minute, who with what kind of bad intentions could they have access to this information? And am I being watched? Is there somebody out there taking notes upon me? Are they planning on punishing me for something that I said or something that I didn't do? So it's just a very complex world that we have no choice in living in because of all the technology. At the same time, I think it's scary, and it's this, especially this aspect of this disturbing, that someone has access to your entire life. No, and here's another interesting one that usually, if you believe in conspiracy theory, then you can feel a slight little feeling of satisfaction, a little bit of superiority, where people will say, aha, see, I am a critical thinker. I'm not like all of you sheep out there that you're
Yep.
just going and taking what's being spoon fed. I am the big thinker. I'm going and looking beyond the official version of the story and what could really be going on. So it's a
Yeah.
nice little ego trip that can give you.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like, we see a lot of overlap in sci-fi, in the conspiracy, government. Going back even with films like Enemy of the State and Minority Report, and it seems like there's a lot of overlap between sci-fi and, I mean, even I guess you could go all the way back to, some of the classic novels too, 1984, those kind of things. Why are those two such good partners in telling these stories?
Well, because I think we're noticing that we're living in more and more of a sci-fi world, because of the runaway technology. And then, because of that, we want to start asking these questions. Well, how do we make sure it's not being used against us? Or how are rules created, laws created? I mean, I'm going to read something like, I was just rereading this recently again, the Orwell novel, 1984. And, you're looking at this and wondering, well, how did this world come to be as horrible as it is? They can start understanding little increments by which it can happen, and then you see the parallels of it in the real world. So science, technology, hand of government, those are these big hammers that can fall down on our head.
Yeah. Have you noticed, or have you made any correlations between how I think overall, the world is less religious than they used to be? I mean, there's still a lot of it, but definitely less than it used to be. It's not a fundamental part. Has that led to an opening for the conspiracy and that kind of stuff to fill that gap? Is it kind of its own religion?
Oh, absolutely. I completely believe that. That's a perfect comparison right there. Because what religion says that, well, even though you might not see how the universe works, how your deity is controlling the world, his will, and things like that. However, if you just have faith, that even though it's beyond the scope of what you're capable of understanding, there is somebody in charge and that person is somebody benevolent, and ultimately, if you just hang in there, be a good person, that your rewards eventually will come. You might not recognize it now. And so the same way, the conspiracy theory also says that there's an invisible world around you, that you have listening devices, you have informers, you have conspirators who are controlling the entire world, and you don't understand it. Except here, instead of this hidden invisible power being benevolent, in the conspiracy theory, it's going to be evil. It's people like the New World Order, and the Illuminati, and the Freemasons. That somehow they're just constantly controlling this complicated world, so that you always wind up losing, and they're winding up winning. So it's very, I would say, two sides of the same coin. But we can even say that this is a religious system for a world that is identifying less and less with traditional religions.
Yeah, it makes me wonder though, because in typical religion, there's some sort of saving device, right? That kind of promises a future, but with conspiracies, we don't necessarily get that.
It's
so
pretty
what fills that hole? Yeah, what fills that hole of like something bigger than us that is benevolent, like, or is that just the cognitive dissonance that we're all feeling?
Yeah, it's really how the genre functions to scare you, but really the savior figure of it. The way that you can read the narrative and the themes of these films is that you can be just like the hero who stumbles onto the conspiracy. Because usually the plot is they have some kind of a lowly person, some kind of Donald's Luck reporter, or some insignificant government bureaucrat, lowly cop, and they go and stumble onto a little crime, a little problem. Then they notice that keeps unraveling into something tremendously huge and corrupt and dangerous. And then because they're so dogged and they're going and pulling on the yarn, and that they have the ultimately the ability to go and uncover the what the conspiracy was all about. What were the bad guys trying to do? So in a way, the stories like that tell you that you can be the savior of your own life if you just keep asking the big questions, and don't take the official version of events, and be as suspicious as you can.
So what do you make of all of the the recent news release, or not news, but government release of all the files? I think they've done a series of 3 dumps so far. The last one came last Friday, right on the opening of this new film Disclosure Day. And really, I've seen some of these. Now you're starting to see them trickle throughout social media. I mean, I don't generally look for this stuff, but I see it popping up in feeds from time to time. It's kind of interesting, the timing of it. And typically it's a short video, or it's something like an image that's hazy, or a video that you can't really tell what's going on. So, it's hilarious because, I mean, nowadays we all have, we all have high definition cameras right in our hands, our pockets every day. But yet we still haven't seen a clear video of anything out there. But we get enough data, we get enough information that's put out there to make us question, right? Make people question, what if? So what do you make of all of this right now?
Well, I'm very excited about it. That, I mean, we found out back in 2017 when the New York Times wrote the story that actually the government has been funding these various agencies to keep studying UFOs. Well, they told us that they weren't. So I'm happy to see some coming clean here, and the release of these documents. And yeah, the absolutely perfect timing of it. Who knows? Maybe some of that marketing budget from the film was a check was sent to Donald Trump, maybe. Because that
never know.
The timing was absolutely perfect. So I'm happy to see people talking about things like where you have congressmen and senators,
Yeah.
and they're, the Secretary of State, all these people, and they're saying that they have seen information that led them to believe that the government has all of this knowledge about alien contact. So I like the fact that we're having this the releases, the discussions, serious discussion on news programs, because years ago when they would have somebody rarely on talking about some really jokey approach to it, like the person would be talking, they'd be playing the X-Files and music behind them. And so it's we've gone past that kind of nudge wink, and this is all a big joke, to understanding that there's this data, there's this electronic data, that you have these things flying around in the sky, and they have capabilities that we don't see how any kind of an Earth-made technology could have.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy to see this, and I hope though ultimately that we get things a little more solid than these forms, but like half of it blacked out, and the really tiny blurry videos. I mean, we have some of these whistleblowers who claim to have seen dead aliens and claim to have seen the on the wreckage. Show it to me. That has to be the next
Right.
step. So
well, it's funny because my congressman in my district, I live in Tennessee, and it's Tim Burchett, who's big in this right now. He's one of the, he's involved in, he's been on several interviews just talking about, what he's seen, and, he doesn't come full disclosure on what he's seen, but he said it's enough to make anyone question. They would seriously keep people up at night. I think was his words. It would keep people up at night if they had seen some of the things that he had seen that were shown to him. So, and that's interesting coming from him, because he's one of the last people in Congress. I think he's a pretty upstanding guy. He's served in local politics here in East Tennessee for years. So he would be one of the last persons that I would expect to be kind of a, fringe kooky guy, So it really is interesting coming from him and some of the people that have come out with this, right? So.
Absolutely, yeah. He's constantly popping up on interviews about it.
Yeah.
What he said, that if you knew what I saw, you wouldn't be able to sleep at night. So,
that's right.
Yeah, so show us. Yeah, exactly. Like,
Well,
release that.
We're kind of pulled right to the very edge, right? And then it's like, but there's no, you still don't see the evidence, right? So we're led to right to the edge of it, to that where we're kind of pulled in, we're intrigued enough, we question things, but it's still, there's no solid evidence. So you're just kind of led to believe that, okay, the old saying is that, what is it? The long saying, or the long, the thinking forever is that the cover up is because people wouldn't be able to handle knowing what they know, right? So that's why it's been disclosed from, the public, is that they wouldn't be able to handle the truth, right? So it's like, that's been the government line for as long as I can imagine, right?
Oh, absolutely. Especially when really the age of the UFO took off in the late 40s. Well, 1947 on, let's see, June 24th, just a couple of days from now, when there's the anniversary of Kenneth Arnold seeing UFOs and comparing them to saucers. But that was really the start of the modern UFO era, and then right as you're in the middle of the Cold War. The Cold War heating up. So you can see a lot of the the obfuscation, a lot of the denials, the kind of dismissal. Oh, no, that's just swamp gas. In an atmosphere where people might be very jittery about the state of the world. And they're reading magazines, and they have ads in there how to build a fallout shelter in your basement, because the world is teetering on the edge. So I mean, one school of thoughts is that in a really, really fearful time like that, the government would want to go and make sure and calm down the population, and don't suggest that, oh yeah, here we're telling you that we're going to be protecting you from the Russian threat, but here is a mysterious flying craft coming over our country. There's nothing we can do about it. They do whatever they want, and we're completely powerless. So there, the thinking is that's probably very scary for a prime Cold War audience, and you just go and brush it under the rug and say, oh no, that's a misidentification that could possibly keep people from panicking.
What was that Project Blue Book? Was that like, are you familiar with that Project Blue Book? But
Yes. It was actually the third of the major Air Force studies of UFOs. And that actually, I was just recently reading a report about it from the my goodness, why am I blacking out on his name? The Edward Ruppelt, I believe, who was the head of it. And so what happened there was, before, in 1948, there was one project called Project Sign, the very first one. Let's take a look at all these UFO reports are about in the wake of the sightings in Washington. So there he's arguing that at Sign already you had two camps developing in this organization. One half said that it's all mistakes, it's misidentification, but another half, equally brilliant people, smart people, and they said that, well, no, it looks like this could be the extraterrestrial hypothesis would be the most useful here. However, Washington doesn't want to endorse anything about clearly an extraterrestrial hypothesis. So then they had another project, 1949, Project Grudge. And then later in 1952, they do Project Blue Book, that finds it pretty much like usually when you're looking at the bigger statistics of UFO sightings, a large majority are explainable. But if you have like 10, 15, 20% that are unexplained, or with some of these released documents, and some suggest that during the investigation of sightings of a several certain time period, that's something like 400 unexplained sightings on there. So you only need to be right once, right? So, however, the Blue Book's conclusion, though, was that, well, we don't know what it is, but it's not a threat to the U.S. And then finally, the whole thing, supposedly, but as we find out now, it's not the truth, you have more investigations shut down, where in 1953, at the University of Colorado, they had this panel called the Robertson Panel that was going to be going back, evaluating everything in Blue Book, and then making the recommendation. Should the U.S. be in the UFO business or not? And the panel said that, there's no sign of a threat. I mean, that's not even the big question you have, right? Is it alien or is it not? And then we can worry about the threat. But the conclusion was that this is a waste of the time and the resources of the government.
That's almost a sort of admission in itself, or it could be, to say, well, it's not a threat. I mean, it's one of those lies of omission, I guess, right? It's like, well, it's not a threat. We're not going to say that it exists, but we're going to say it's not a threat. So
right. Oh yeah, exactly. So you're not entirely an outright lie. But here was something also interesting in the Robertson panel, where there's things that the person who ran it, Howard Robertson, gave an interview before the findings were all done, and he said, "Oh yeah, I think this is all a bunch of nonsense, but I'm not supposed to reach that conclusion yet." So, not very scientific, to decide that you're not going to believe in it. But one of the recommendations of the panel was that the government ought to try and use the media to debunk, to obfuscate, to basically deny the reality of the alien nature of UFOs.
That's another, like, yeah, why would you do that if it doesn't exist? Kind of questions.
Yeah.
Those are just the little trails and pieces that are left behind. It's like, did they plant those intentionally to kind of keep the conspiracy going? Was it just overlooked when it happened? It's be all kinds of things. I'm curious, Barna. I wanted to ask you this: like, where do you personally stand on like belief in extraterrestrials? Do they exist? Do they not exist? Have they visited us? Have they not visited us? Where do you personally stand on that?
I believe they exist, and most likely they visit us. I'm very, very, very open-minded on the about visitation. It's just with the bigger question of is alien life exist? The majority of scientists pretty much are agreeing on that. How you have trillions of galaxies and trillions of solar systems, and then only one should have intelligent life. That just mathematically it doesn't make sense. Now, also traveling here, because that's where the things become a little harder to completely wrap your mind around. So you do have this tremendously long distances between stars. So,
Yeah.
but theoretically, it's not impossible. Science fiction has been when dealing with stories like generation ships, where you'd have a race of aliens who just permanently moved into a ship, and they go on and sail through the stars as long as they like. Or maybe they're not even like living organic beings anymore. Maybe they're entirely robots. So theoretically it can be done, and I guess theoretically things like wormholes, which it's just way over my head. I
Yeah.
can't really comment on the physics of it, but as I understand, it is not a completely off the table impossibility. So since I absolutely believe that there's intelligent life out there, and it could have come here. Now, when I look at the at the UFO reports, and especially the really good electronic data from aircraft radar and gun cameras, and the best radar equipment you'd have on aircraft carriers, and this is showing us that there's something there. It's real, something solid, and it goes and stops and then flies away for 1,000 miles in a second. So at that point, I tell myself, I'm kind of like how Sherlock Holmes said, that once you eliminate the impossible, whatever is left over, no matter how improbable, was probably it. So when I look at these stories of here you have a UFO that suddenly plunges into the ocean and then flies away and takes 90-degree turns. I'm sorry, it is impossible that there's like some kind of a trick of light on the camera, or it's not Venus through cloud formations or swamp gas. And so when I'm hearing the swamp gas explanations and these really very ordinary things, and I'm looking at the video or watching or reading what people said about the experience, I'm thinking, no, there's something here. I think they might be out there.
Do you believe Roswell was a real thing that happened back in the 40s?
Oh, I'm on the fence about that. I got to tell you, because there's one part of it where I thought, okay, this just sounds so odd, that when this craft crashed, which supposedly later they said that's actually a weather balloon, but this thing I think went and crashed. And the farmer who found it, so we're told that's tinfoil and balsa wood. Well, there were balloons crashing in that area all over the place, and many of them would have little signs on there. Please, property of the Army Air Force, please return to the Roswell Air Base. And so people were seeing these constantly, and then now we have this one that creates this this big hullabaloo about it. I thought that is just a little bit odd. And then the other interesting thing was that immediately the public relations officer of the base, he issued this press release that one of the discs that the media has been looking at is crashed in Roswell. So, and then like a day or so later after that, then they say, "Oh no, we made a mistake. It's actually a weather balloon." So, yeah, it's It's hard to really buy that it was just a plain weather balloon, or I
Yeah.
mean, what else it could be. And then here's a whole nother avenue for conspiracy theorizing. The argument is that sometimes the government might have been making up phony UFO stories to ridicule the entire thing and have the media ignore it, because that's what happened after they put out an understatement saying, "Oh no, this is not a UFO. This was just a weather balloon." The
Right.
story died, and the rest of the media, they just bought it. Okay, that's it. Move on. These people down in Roswell, the heat got to their heads, and they're imagining that there's aliens out there. So it's because then later on in the 90s, there was the explanation that it was a mogul balloon, but the mogul balloon was used later, than 1947, and apparently another experiment where they were dropping large dummies, test dummies, to the desert floor, and maybe the people who claim to have seen bodies actually saw the dummies, but those are big, strapping, 6-foot tall crash test dummies, and it looks like a humanoid crash test dummy. No way anybody could mistake that for a tiny little spindly alien with the big head and the big eyes. And so I'm on
What
the
are
fence.
what are your most of the students that come through, being a different generation than us three, how do they handle all this, or what do they think about the different conspiracies and aliens and psyops and all the different things we've been talking about today? Do they have a different worldview of it, or how are they reacting to all of this?
Some of them do. Some of them tend to be very pessimistic and suspicious about who's in charge and what kind of invisible forces are acting on them. And so they're very open-minded. Now, there are a couple of people we can kind of see the dark side of the extreme conspiracy belief, because I've seen this in a couple of students too, who said that, I don't have any power. All these conspiracy theories will just show me that I have no power in the world, that I should not have been trying to do anything. Many of them are saying, well, I don't even go and bother to vote because it's the Illuminati is in charge, and I'm just a little nobody here. And I
got my own problems, man. That's what they're saying. I can't even afford a house. I don't care.
Exactly.
I don't care about UFOs. To your point, Sean, that's actually a good question, because I don't know about you, but when I was at the theater the other night on a Wednesday and I looked around, like everybody in there was my age or much older, watching that film.
It was. I mean, we went to a daytime showing, so that probably skewed the numbers, but it was the same way where we were. It was considerably old. It was definitely 50 plus. I think there's one couple that was probably younger, but everybody else was. Again, that could have been the time of day too. It'd be curious to know, like, who's going to watch this.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. I'm wondering because it's been a couple of years since Steven Spielberg made another major splashy blockbuster. He had the Fabelmans. When was it? Like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I think the younger people now are no longer associating with Spielberg with the big splashy event film anymore, which could be.
I was reading the numbers. So far, it's grossed 44 million in North America, 92 million globally. So that's pretty small in comparison, because this was a $300 million film it took to produce, including marketing. 115 million to produce, and then 80 million to market. So they're right now they're big time in the black. So but that's typical of movies. I don't know if you can just attribute that to this film. I mean, we've talked about how segmented people are today and their choices of what they like to go see, box office numbers. I mean, you go to a theater nowadays, and it's like, I don't think I've seen a filled theater since we went to see, Top Gun Maverick, like 3 or 4 years ago. I mean, that was the last time I saw a semi-filled, or at least maybe over halfway filled theater was during that film. So it's interesting.
No, absolutely, and like you said, I think it's completely right. It's the segmentation of
Yeah.
audience, especially young people, are just so much more used to using their screens.
Their screens, yeah.
Mhm. Although there is an interesting another piece of data that I read about recently, that Generation Z, though, does seem to be going to films pretty vigorously,
hmm
but apparently it has to be just the right one, and because that was the same place with the theater where I went, it was
hmm
grown-ups,
Yeah.
middle age-ish, and are you 30 to middle age-ish or so, and nobody younger than that. So yeah, maybe with the kids, this topic just does not
Yeah.
seem to interest them, because they go and turn out for video game movies
Yeah.
and streaming their anime. So they have specific tastes and likes, but apparently the name maybe Steven Spielberg is just not carrying the same weight anymore. And
No. Yeah.
with the aliens. Well, maybe because of all the coverage on the news,
Sure.
they're okay, here's another alien movie or whatever. I can go and watch it on TV
Yeah.
and stream it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also wonder if they're just, if you're on TikTok and Instagram, and there's so many experts, and theorists on those platforms talking about this stuff nonstop. If you want to, if you're in that part of the algorithm,
Mhm.
that a movie's probably not going to make that much difference to you, right? I mean,
Right.
you've already
Right.
seen every angle you could possibly see.
Right. That's an interesting point there about maybe you already have a deeper dive into the lore, and then whatever the movie shows winds up being disappointing, which I kind of felt like that near the end. And I'm watching this, and I keep remembering the interviews that Steven Spielberg gave about how he's interested in the big questions of how will contact change the way we view ourselves in the world
Right.
and religion. I'm thinking, I wish he would have made that movie, because he
Yeah.
didn't. I mean, we don't get the disclosure.
Yeah.
What is the big secret? So maybe from the opening night audiences, maybe the bad word of mouth might have started.
Yeah.
That if you're familiar with this, that's fine. But they
Yeah.
don't give you anything new.
I don't think it was illuminating. I mean, it felt like, because Sean and I were talking about this. It was a great film, but it felt to me like more of like because I love the, I love the X-Files back in the 90s. I was a huge fan of that. So, it felt like, to me, it felt like an X-Files type genre, and which I love, but it just felt like, that's classic type X-Files cover up, government cover up, conspiracy, blah blah blah, which is cool. I love that stuff, but not everybody. But there was nothing like earth shattering or completely illuminating or eye opening about this film. I just thought it was
there was no unexpected twist.
Right.
No, not at all.
There was
It
no
went exactly where we thought it would.
right.
yeah.
Actually, with the comparison to the X-Files, afterwards I was thinking about this. It kind of makes me think of, what if Jason Bourne meets the X-Files? Like the board, it's pretty much the same story. In there, you had one person with these extraordinary abilities, and he doesn't know where he has them from. And he's on a run, and these assassins are trying to kill him. And here we have two people with otherworldly abilities, and you have the bad guys in the black cars chasing after them. So toss a little Jason Bourne into a little X-File, and you shake it up.
There you go.
And I was expecting more from Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
But I think, to your point, that last trailer that they dropped, I mean, just from your role as, mass communications and things like that, I thought the final trailer with those interviews spliced in was just masterful marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, where it gives you this sort of a feeling like a meta film, that this is real world unfolding there. And I'm thinking also that for entertainment to be relevant and successful, it needs to touch on the zeitgeist, on the feelings of the times. And I thought the trailers are very good too.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted a surprise on the end of the film.
Yeah, I wanted to walk away. Like, I was entertained for sure. Like, it was entertainment, well done. But I didn't walk away with like a paradigm shift or a perspective shift or like a lingering question. I guess you're left with like, I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but with the final word that was in the film that she said, I mean, my wife immediately, as soon as the lights came on, she was like, "What did that mean?" And I was like, "That's, I think, what you have to decide, like what that means,
Right.
that word."
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was the only like little cliffhanger, I think, was like, what does that mean exactly?
Right.
'Cause you could really, if you wrote a list of like 10 different things that could mean, you could go in a lot of different directions. You know, if you wanted to write a sequel or, you know,
Sure. Maybe that's what they were thinking, that this could be like a Rorschach test on the end of it. That based on what you believe, how are you going to interpret a message from another world?
Yeah, because you can see how, different, a government agency might take that word one way, whereas, different groups of people would take that one word and could take it in very different ways.
Of course. Yeah.
Some would take it as a threat. Some would take it as a advice. Some would, could go all over the place, really.
Yeah. And I was thinking the same thing. Oh, maybe this is setting up a sequel. I want to see the sequel. There better be some disclosure in that one.
Of course.
Yeah. So if Mr. Spielberg and his people are listening to this, I have ideas. And his people and my people can get lunch.
Yeah, go ahead and write that screenplay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get it out there.
So what do you make? I'm curious, what do you make of the way the media, because I'm always a little skeptical when I see, like, especially when when the release of a lot of these UFO files have come out, and the media in sequence, I don't care what platform or what channel or whatever you listen to, it's been one right after another where they're like, okay, they're releasing it, they're kind of, it feels like it's in lock sequence of, when they release these, they go out and they're constant, they're putting this out there. And, I'm always, my intuition starts to go, it's like, this is a little too on the nose where everybody's like putting this out at the same time. What's your interpretation of how the media is handling this UFO disclosure from, our government?
Well, this is interesting that they're all jumping on it and they're all reporting. And now there's some news outlets that are doing it more than others. There's the cable station News Nation that just does tons and tons of stories on UFOs, and because at least it's interesting that majority of the press is paying attention to it, and they might have a serious sounding discussion about it, some serious guests on, rather than having it like near the bottom of the hour on the news, where you have like some kind of a weird news, like the roller skating dog or something like that.
Right.
And then because in here, since also that we have like serious people right here, congressmen and senators, saying that they're convinced that there's something to this. Really, at that point, it becomes harder to ignore, and you're going to get more of the coverage.
Yeah, I agree. Going back to Tim Burchett, once he got into the mix, it was like, ooh, man, that's, a guy like this who I've known like for years, because he's been in local politics here, so. It's really interesting to see him, because he's not a kook by any means. He's not a conspiracy theorist or anything like that. He's kind of what you see is what you get kind of guy. So that kind of makes me feel like there's something, obviously there's something going on. So
Oh, absolutely. I like him a lot too. After seeing a lot of the interviews with him on the UFOs that I've looked into his background, his positions, I do like him a lot.
Yeah.
And then when you hear somebody like that go and say that, yes, going to my judgment here, that there's something going on. It's not swamp gas, or when you hear professors from places like in Harvard, there's the chair. I forget what division, Avi Loeb, who's constantly talking about
Oh,
the
yeah.
possibility that when you hear people like this, like lawmakers, academic scientists, then it becomes harder to ignore by the press.
Avi Loeb, he's a scientist, right? He's a
Yes.
what's
So
Israeli, like,
I
or is
believe
he?
so.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Mhm.
think I've heard him. I think I heard an interview with him on a podcast recently because he was talking about this. I think he was one of the ones that identified this, what he thought might be a craft, like, near the sun, like heading this way. Some speculated it was like just another asteroid, but it was like it had a certain shape and a certain look to it that was different than most, just natural type of, anomaly, or something that looked like an anomaly from most natural shape asteroids or,
Mhm.
space debris that's out there. So it was really interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And when you have expertise like this, saying that on the story was the Oumuamua asteroid that took some kind of a turn that wasn't supposed to take, then
Yeah.
then I'm going to say, okay, this guy obviously knows what he's
Yeah.
doing. He's at Harvard teaching this, so okay,
Oh,
I
yeah.
keep an open mind.
Yeah.
So I guess the kind of the question we can start wrapping up on is, so the other likelihood, or the other possibility, I guess, not necessarily likelihood, but possibility, is that this is just the government's favorite distraction psyop
Yeah.
because it's so intriguing and so entertaining
Mhm.
that if they want to be doing something with the right hand, they roll out the UFO stuff with the left hand.
Mm.
Mhm.
Like, have you gone into that world? And
Mhm. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's so fascinating to me, and it has me wondering. Maybe this is the big secret. Maybe this is the big solution to everything, is that you have the creation of a lot of debunkable UFO sightings and even pictures. It's something that the military, the CIA, had admitted to already. I believe it was last year when the Wall Street Journal did a story on this about how going back to the 50s and the 60s, you have military intelligence going and seeding certain areas with UFO stories, and these were areas where they would have a military base, where sometimes there'll be testing aircraft, and then here the thinking was, let's make this look silly. Let's go and spread goofy sounding stories, and then we can roll out the experts and they can debunk it, and then nobody else is going to take it seriously. So that's just that thinking, and that if this is some kind of a psyop, or maybe a test. And this is something else that I'm thinking about often, is that what if it's somebody who's doing a massive psychological test, go and create the appearance of something completely irrational, something completely supernatural that everyone can see, and then stand back and don't do anything and just sit there and take notes. But how does a society go and deal with something like, a very rational, very technological society? But if now you suggest that there are shape-shifting aliens among them, what's going to happen? It was a guess that someone had taken also about I think this is a strong possibility. At the other year when we had all of the drone sightings here in New Jersey, and then all of a sudden they stopped, and there was
Oh,
a
yeah. I remember that.
yeah, because at one point they were all over the place every single day. I think I might have seen one of them. As I was driving out of Bayonne into the, into the mainland, but they were suddenly everywhere all at once, and then they completely disappeared. So I'm wondering, did they really disappear? Is the media ignoring it? But whatever happened there, what if those are real Earthbound, some kind of a government experiment drones, and the experiments are the New Jerseyites, or the people who hear about the story? Let's go and create something fantastic, and let's see how people react to it. It could be something like a War of the Worlds broadcast that set off a panic. Or
Yeah.
how will people react? So maybe that's the big secret.
Yeah, will people shoot them down? Will people, accept them? Like, how will
Yeah.
they react? I tell you, all these Amazon drones, they're getting ready to roll out, and Walmart drones.
Oh my goodness! Yeah,
I'm ready to shoot those down.
Those country folks, man, those things are prime game.
It's just, man, the noise pollution of those things is just, drones are so loud. It's crazy. But, well, this has been fun. This has been a good conversation. Anything you have left, Jonathan, or any last questions?
No, I find it fascinating. I think it's interesting, the intersection between what we see, what we want to believe, what we're, the psyops that are being played, because there's stuff going on behind the scenes. So there's always information, but there's always disinformation. And so it's always enough to leave you questioning and asking questions and, somewhat believing, but it never gets you to the point of total belief. It's left to, you're left to basically just question things. And I think that's probably where a lot of people want us to be right now.
Yeah, a little unsteady.
Yes. Yeah. A little uncertain.
Yep.
Sure. That critical thinking and questioning everything is really good.
Yeah.
But don't go over the complete deep end. That the earth is flat. Ultimately, question everything. Like there's this old saying in journalism schools that if your mother says she loves you, check it out. That's how you should live. Yeah. Don't take anything at its face value, even if it's mom saying that she loves you. Make sure that you can prove it.
Yeah. That's that's a whole nother show, whole nother episode we could do. But like that's getting, despite the fact that maybe because we have access to so much information, it's actually getting harder to fact check than it is easier.
Oh yeah.
Because it is. You can find proof for anything you want these days in one direction or the other. I mean, I've been as a copywriter, I realized that when I first got in the business, like, I can just make up something and I could probably find something close enough to what I was trying to say.
Yes.
And I can find a stat out there.
You can find enough to support anything now.
Yeah, you can manipulate statistics in so many different ways.
Easily.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And AI, doesn't help in any way. I mean, because AI can be bent and manipulated just as well as anyone else.
Yep. It's everybody says it's not human. I think it's very human.
Yes.
From that standpoint.
ChatGPT, platforms like ChatGPT, it aims to please. So it's like, if you the way you question it, it'll support you in any way possible, and reaffirm your belief. If that's what you want. So, I mean, it's
well, Barna, any last words that you give your students at the end of the semester that you want to pass on to the listeners? And I know you've got a stop coming up, so any last words you want to share with the people?
Well, thank you again for having me on. This is fantastic, and just keep always think about the catchphrases from the X-Files. Trust no one, but the truth is out there. So look for it, but like we just said, it becomes harder and harder to tell what it is. So
absolutely,
we do a lot of intellectual weightlifting.
Yeah, and you have a book, right, that kind of talks about some of this stuff.
Yes.
Yep. Conspiracy films.
Yep.
Which there's Kevin Costner right there from JFK. I mean that.
Sure. I'm planning on doing a follow-up to this with some with updated movies soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this film, by the way. That was Stone, wasn't it?
Yeah, Oliver Stone. Yes,
Oliver Stone. Yeah.
Yeah, there's also didn't Stephen King write a book about like time traveling to try to stop?
I read that book. Yes,
I heard of it.
Yeah, I read that book back. That was back about 10 years ago. That was an excellent book.
It was the date, right? 11/20, whatever it was.
Yeah, it was the actual date of when he was killed. 11/22/63.
So the book is Conspiracy Films: A Tour of Dark Places in the American Conscious, and it is available on Amazon. So Kindle or paperback, and
it's
sounds like a good beach read.
Yeah, everything, a Kindle and paperback, and it's like two books in one. It goes into the major history of the conspiracy theories and then all the major films that they inspired.
Yeah,
very cool. Sounds like a nice little beach read or little fun little read by your.
So
by your
you're thinking
observation.
about doing a follow-up, huh?
Yes, we're expanding it into more movies, more recent films, and then or one possibility is to do another edition where I go and just deal with only with the flying saucer movies.
Yeah.
So two books on just one.
There's plenty of those to go around, so you'll
Yeah.
have plenty of content to work with.
Mhm.
Lauren, it's been great having you on the show today, and yeah, I mean, we'd love to have you back on. Is that
Oh, absolutely.
follow-up book comes into fruition, we'll have to invite you back on.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
Yep. If you'll hang tight, we're gonna send you to the green room for like 30 seconds. We're gonna close out the show, and we'll wrap up. All right. Let's see. Interesting. That was super cool.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I'd like to take his class, a couple of them. That'd be fun.
Absolutely.
I might have passed those classes. I don't know how hard he is. How tough I can't even imagine what the assignments would be.
I'd be totally engrossed.
Yeah, I should probably read and watching movies and reading.
I wouldn't miss a class.
Yeah. Be pretty cool.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think we're off next week.
That's right. We've got a guest scheduled for, let's see, this is a week after 4th of July. I think we'll probably do an episode the week before, the like 4th of July, that Friday before.
Yep.
But yeah, we're going to be off next week. You'll be traveling, so safe travels for you. And yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks then.
All right. See ya.
All right.